Welcome to Facebook Live, Red Zone Extra. I am here with the gang. On the far right, Herbie Teope. Next to him, Sam Mellinger. Sam McDowell next to him. I'm Blair Kerkhoff, and Vahe Gregorian will join us in a little while. We're here to break down the Chiefs' 34-30 victory over the Detroit Lions here at Ford Field. This one was unlike any of the games the Chiefs have played this season, was it not, guys? Like the rest of the games, they won, but unlike the games that they have played up until now, had to work a little harder for this one. Lead it off, Sam.
Yeah, they had to come from behind. I mean, it's a compliment to their efficiency, right? They haven't been in this situation. I think they've been up ahead 2 scores in every fourth quarter.
Yep.
Am I right about that?
Yep. Yeah. At least 17.
And this is the first time that so 3 scores. This is the first time that Patrick Mahomes has had to do that as the Chiefs' starting quarterback, as their QB1, of coming from behind in the last minute with a touchdown drive. Last year, they tied the Ravens at the end, and then they won the game with a field goal in overtime. They lost in the last minute to the Rams. They lost in the last minute to the Chargers. They lost to the Patriots twice.
And the Seahawks.
In last minute or overtime. And this was his, sort of an MVP moment. That 4th and 8. That scramble, some of the guys, and this is basically what I wrote for the column, some of the guys in the locker room said, like, he came into that huddle, and it's open air press box here, but this place was jumping.
Yeah,
and it was really loud before that 4th and 8, and he came in there and just had a big smile and said, this is what we get paid to do.
Wow.
Drop back, the rush came upfield, big hole in front of him opened, and, I can't say exactly how LDT described the very last play with Darrell Williams.
It's because he spoke in French, I believe, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, some people would call it French, but it was great. I mean, it was a really good win for them. I think I don't know if they needed it, right? They're a good team either way, but it's a useful thing to win a game like that, in that situation.
Herbie, your first game covering the Chiefs since 2015. And they didn't give you a 3-score lead in the fourth quarter.
No, they did not.
You have to have a game story done right at the end of the game, and you had the dual lead on your screen, the Chiefs winning and the Chiefs losing leads on your screen. What did you think of your first Chiefs game?
I would say the Chiefs have issues on defense. And I know that was the storyline coming into this game, and I know, like Steve Spagnuolo says, we don't know what we have yet. This is a process that's going to take a long time, but what alarmed me was you have Lions running back Kerryon Johnson, who enters this week averaging 2.6 yards per carry, and the guy has a 100-yard rushing game against the Chiefs defense here, and I think that's got to be a concern because in order to win a game, most teams will tell you got to stop the run first. You want to try to make that offense one-dimensional. But what you faced here with the Lions team here was a balanced Lions offense. So you couldn't take away one weapon and focus on all the other areas. But giving up 100-plus yards to Kerryon Johnson, to me, was a big concern. Major kudos, though, for them to have that resiliency to overcome the adversity of the beginning of the game. I mean, they were struggling.
Yeah.
And watching Patrick Mahomes from afar, the throws that he would make deep, you just didn't see that today. He missed a lot of open throws, but they were able to overcome that. So I think this is a quality Chiefs team, but you got to be able to stop the run.
All right, so, hey, send us your questions and comments. We'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. Sam McDowell, you wrote about this, right? It was not the best effort. Maybe that's a wrong way of describing it. It ends up being a hell of an effort.
Yeah.
But they made mistakes that we hadn't seen them make in the previous 3 games. I believe this game went without a touchdown pass by number 15 for the first time this season.
First time in 346 days. He's played a game and not thrown a touchdown.
3rd time in his career, but also I think the first time that he didn't throw a touchdown pass or score a rushing touchdown. So no touchdowns responsible for, and yet he was responsible for just about everything. But anyway, you ended up writing about, they kind of gutted one out and gritted one out.
Yeah, I mean, sort of the theme of that was we all know that this team is tough, and I think maybe you could even say in some cases impossible to beat when they're at their absolute best. And today I thought we found them at potentially their worst, and they still won a game against an undefeated team on the road. You look at all the numbers, I mean, they gave up over 6 yards of play today. Like you mentioned, Mahomes hadn't thrown a touchdown, didn't throw a touchdown for the first time in almost 350 days. They fumbled the ball 3 times in 10 minutes. And the Lions recovered all 3 of them. The defense twice did not give up points there. So And I agree with Herbie. The defense didn't have a great day, but they played really well with their backs against the wall and on a back-to-back possessions there. And, but what struck me was an exchange you and I, Blair, had today that shows just how good this team is, because at one point, Mahomes overthrows McCole Hardman, and it was so bizarre to see him just misfiring a pass that I have you pull out your binoculars and see if there's a conversation going on the sideline, because it's inexplainable just for him to misfire a pass. There has to be a reason behind it, and you and I are sitting here trying to figure out McCole Hardman must have screwed up because it's so unusual.
Right. Well, you had your binoculars on the Mahomes camp, and there's coaches around him, and I was looking at Hardman. There were coaches around him.
Something had to happen.
Yeah, that's right. It's against the universe, the laws of nature, and everything. In this game, the Chiefs trailed 10-0, 13-10, 23-20, and 30-27. So. That shows a little bit of resiliency on this team, does it not?
Absolutely.
So I agree with you, Herbie, about the rushing defense was not up to snuff. But that rushing defense I gave it a passing grade when I have to do the report card because of one play. One pretty alert play that Vahe wrote about. We'll get him to discuss it more when he gets here. But the most alert play and the biggest defensive play of the year for the Chiefs by Bashaud Breeland. What did you see?
Well, you had a fantastic goal line stop there. Xavier Williams stuffed Kerryon Johnson, who was having a fantastic game. Stopped him from going into the end zone. He fumbled there. Rashad picked it up and ran it back. The thing I liked about that was this is the same officiating crew that just 2 weeks ago, the Saints-Rams game, they blew the play dead even though it was a fumble. This time they let it play out, and that was huge. Because if they ruled them down there,
no whistle. Yeah,
they whistled that play. It's dead there at the 1 yard line, and then the Chiefs now have to go 99 yards as opposed to returning it 100 yards. That was a fantastic heads-up play to play. Players are trained to keep going until you hear that whistle. They didn't hear the whistle, so they ran back for a touchdown, and that was at that point I thought it was a game changer. I was like, okay, now the Chiefs are going to roll over them.
Right.
Sure enough, the Lions came back. That was definitely a big play.
How many straight weeks, just to get this out in the open first, are you going to mention the Saints on our Facebook Live?
I'm not going to mention them a lot, but I just think it's unique that this was the same officiating crew that just 2 weeks ago blew that call.
Yeah.
So there's a lesson learned for that officiating crew because Al Riveron told them they should not have blown that whistle. This time around, they did not blow the whistle.
Well, and that Saints-Rams game came up in the post-game interview with the officials.
With Riveron.
They got the pool reporter wanted to get an explanation on the play. And
was it not the right call though? I mean, all of us watching the replay, I thought he fumbled that ball, and Breeland for sure wasn't touched going back.
That would have been the only way. If Breeland was down on a knee when he got the ball and someone touched him, he'd have been down. The Chiefs would have had the ball to 1.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And it looked like Galladay could have made a play on that too.
He stood there,
but he was
Breeland ran right by him.
Yeah.
And Galladay, I thought, he, like everybody else in the building, thought the play was dead, except for Breeland.
Yeah, it's a weird play. The officials, like we've been saying, they called it correctly. You're supposed to just not blow it, and then let the replay take over. But I don't know that you can tell if he was down or not. He was in the middle of a crap ton of big bodies.
Right.
You can't
With
see
his
knee.
on his back.
So it's just an interesting play in that calling it correctly, the correct mechanism again, but not blowing it dead means that you need irrefutable evidence to overturn that when you're just doing it as, sort of a precautionary measure. It's just it's an interesting play.
Even Johnson, though, he was interviewed post-game as well on those same quote sheets, and he didn't argue for the fact that he thought he was down on that play, which I thought was pretty telling.
Right. All right, we'll get Vahe to expand on it a little bit. Let's talk about a couple other plays that I thought were just huge. The 4th and 8 on the final drive. Chiefs take possession with 2:20 to go, down 3, and I'm thinking getting field goal range. I kind of felt like at the time. I know the Lions were playing pretty good defense, certainly against Mahomes. Matt Patricia, hats off to him. I thought he had a good defensive game plan, and. So, all right, they're at the 20, and get to, we saw Butker make 60-yarders in the pregame. Just get on the other side of the field. I figured they'll get a shot. It's the Chiefs, baby. They're thinking W, and so big pass to I think it was Sammy Watkins first. How did it go? There were
Darrell Williams.
Screen pass. Yep, and then there was a completion to Sammy.
But that was short. It went the screen pass, and then. what was it? Incomplete, short, incomplete.
To bring up 4th and 8.
Yeah, 4th and 8.
Right.
And that rush, if you watch it again, that rush came way upfield, and whoever's the nose tackle, Austin Ryder did a good job of pushing him to Mahomes' right side on the field, and then just opened up. They're in man coverage, so backs are turned to you. You know, zone, it becomes a little bit harder. But another interesting thing in that play, like you know, it's 4th and 8, and it just like the look on Mahomes' teammates when they're just like, dude, he was like smiling in the huddle. You know, like it's 4th and 8, we're about to like fall off the cliff, and he's just like. Let's go. And what you just said, like, because it's the Chiefs, maybe, like they go to. That had a very different connotation before Patrick Mahomes got here. It's the Chiefs, baby. Like that was a very different thing.
Herbie remembers those days.
Same old Chiefs. Here we go again. Same old Chiefs.
No
now it's like
way they're going to convert this.
Now it's like you just hold your breath, like something's going to happen here, and that's what happened.
What stood out to me, though, was several times today I thought Patrick Mahomes was in, I'm just going to make a play mode. And I know that's sort of his MO, but that play was one of them. You and I talked about a play where on a 3rd down and maybe 1 it was, on an RPO, he could have handed the ball off to McCoy and just decided, I'm just going to take it myself.
Yeah,
like, I'm getting
McCoy
this first down. He tried to tackle a defensive lineman today.
Huge defensive lineman.
Out of there.
A really bad
doing,
idea. But I just thought several times today he kind of sensed that maybe things weren't going the way that they typically do, and just on his own said, I'm just going to make something happen.
On that note, I remember I talked to Sammy Watkins after the game and asked him about what was going on there, and he basically said we were all looking at each other on the sidelines and saying, what the freak is going on right now? Because this wasn't like your typical Chiefs offenses from last year and even the first 3 games of this season. So the players certainly knew something wasn't right. But going back to your point earlier about tipping the hat to Matt Patricia, they had a good game plan. The narrative coming into this game was how many yards is Patrick Mahomes going to pass for in the dome?
Yeah.
And the Lions were without a 2-time Pro Bowl cornerback in Darius Slay. Diggs got hurt and was knocked out of the rest of the game early in the first quarter. But they held their own. And you got to tip the hat to Matt Patricia. These Lions are a lot better than I think than a lot of people are giving them credit for.
Well, they were worthy of their record, and we kind of wondered that coming in.
Yeah.
They were 2-0-1, and that one was a tie with the Cardinals, and you're thinking, how good can they be? Well, are they a playoff team? I don't know. We'll see.
It's a tough division.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough division, but I was impressed with them, and I was impressed with this environment too. You mentioned it earlier, Sam. It gets loud in here. I imagine Mahomes hasn't played in an environment this loud ever in his life, because even when he played indoors with Texas Tech and Baylor and Arlington as a college junior, it's a 50-50 house. It's not capacity. This was loud. It was loud. And of course, we have an open air press box, so we could hear it too. And I thought it was just a different environment for him. And you factor that in with Matt Patricia, who's a terrific defensive coach. And the Chiefs are still without key people. It didn't seem to have mattered until today. I remember I found myself thinking, boy, if Tyreek Hill were if they had that additional weapon, it could make a difference. Because I don't think McCole Hardman played well at all today.
Yeah.
After having 2 good games, fumbled, lost the fumble, and seemed to run a bad route. Yeah. So.
And we should mention that Tyreek Hill was out here running
Yes,
every route possible in pregame and catching passes from Mahomes. It doesn't look like he's that far off. Of course,
Right.
who actually knows? But I mean, I agree with you that it looked like maybe they needed another guy. I thought Sammy Watkins looked a little bit hobbled today. I don't know what you guys thought, but I didn't think he looked 100% on a couple of plays. He didn't really extend plays that I thought Mahomes was looking for him to continue on his route as he was scrambling.
Well, he was in good company in that. There was a lot of times where the receivers just looked like they stopped running.
He almost kind of waved Hardman deep on one play, and he just sort of ignored it. But the sort of defense that Patricia played that you wonder if other teams will replicate is a lot of man coverage and a lot of double teaming Travis Kelce and trying to take him out of the game.
And a lot of punching the ball. I mean, that's what Patricia's defenses do. They punch the ball, and Sammy, his didn't get punched out. He made a catch and then just put it on the ground. I don't know what. I guess I didn't see a good replay of that, but that was a terrible turnover. And Hardman had one, and who am I missing on the third?
Darrell Williams.
And Darrell Williams.
3 consecutive possessions.
Right, in the third quarter. Yeah, there were 5 fumbles
5,
in the third quarter alone, 2 by the Lions and 1 that turned into the touchdown for the Chiefs.
This is kind of like you're talking about Patricia and doubling Kelce and everything,
Yes.
and he was doing that. But I thought this was an interesting play. The 1st and 10 at midfield on that last drive. And if you watch that, they were beating him up. I think it was a linebacker and a defensive back. I could be wrong on that, but 2 guys beating him up. And then the play was going, and Kelce was lined up to the left. The play was going to the right. And when the play went to the right, the Lions guys just kind of left Kelce alone and like chased the play.
Yeah.
Kelce just stood there. Hey, dude. You know, and it was like the easiest 18 yards in the middle of this like chaotic moment. It's like it was a good game plan, but you gotta, you know, stay on the guy. You know, like, he's still there. He's still there.
Similar to what happened on the play that you wrote about, Blair.
Well, and as it turns out, that it was the hook and lateral was a fun play, and it was part of a touchdown drive. And like the Breland touchdown, I thought, man, you convert this and score, and that changes the game. No, not in this game, but it was a fun play. It was a terrific play. It's so heads up.
It really
so
is.
heads up. You know, Kelce catches a pass. It's going to go for 10, 12 yards, and as he's falling backwards and about to get tackled, with one hand, dishes it to LaShawn McCoy, who thought the pass was coming to him anyway. He's about 3 or 4 yards in front of Kelce and jumps. You know, jumps to get it. He thought it was coming to him. There was Kelce behind him, but has the presence of mind to be facing Kelce when Kelce catches it, shovels, and gets another 23 yards on it. It ends up being a 33-yard completion, and the Chiefs end up scoring on that drive, but they don't. Listen, as much as we like to think that they work on stuff like that because it's the Chiefs, no. McCoy, Kelce, Andy Reid, Mahomes all said, no, just a fortunate play.
It's gutsy, too, because, and maybe if it didn't work out, we call it reckless, right? But you better convert that. You know, like if you're you know, that would have been a first down, I think, right?
I think
like when he caught it.
The official stat sheet has it short of a first down.
Yeah, it was right at the line.
But I remember thinking Kelce was over the yellow line, at least the replay.
Yellow line is not official, though.
I know.
If you're reaching out and pitching the ball and somebody just comes in and chops your arm down or something, and then that's your 6th fumble or whatever it would have been, like I mean, you better get that right. That's like a no-look pass. You know, you better not throw an interception on that.
What a play, and you know, and LaShawn McCoy, we've mentioned it before on previous Facebook Lives. He just marvels at this offense.
Every time. Every post game, his quotes just gushing about how great this offense is.
I thought it was funny when he was asked about in the locker room. He was like, "It's the Chiefs." That was his reaction. It's the Chiefs.
Sam, you got to tell the exchange you saw that involves.
Oh, I mean, he was just going crazy. It was like, you guys were undefeated. We're undefeated. You guys are just taking it for granted. Taking it for granted. And Jeff Allen's like, we're used to it, bro. And Darrell Williams was like, big facts.
That's right. He's coming from Buffalo.
I saw somebody on Twitter like compare LaShawn McCoy to like a kid, like, you know, kind of like a poor kid that goes and visits his rich friend and just can't believe like all the toys that this other kid has. He's like, oh my God, you got a little Jeep that you can drive around? Like, you guys have space where I can run?
I like it.
A quarterback that works.
All right, so even after all this stuff happened, the Chiefs still needed to punch it in at the end, or get, kick the short field goal. But once you're down in the red zone, you want to score the touchdown. And I believe Darrell Williams had a little help on that touchdown run.
He did. Austin Ryder. And again, if you watch it, Ryder got pushed back right at the snap. He gets pushed back at least a step or two. And I think the play was designed to go to the left, but there was more space because Ryder got pushed back to the right. And as soon as Williams kind of got in front of him, and he went straight ahead, right between LDT and Mitch Schwartz, and was met by the middle linebacker right at the line of scrimmage. He may have been over. I'm not sure. Like, it was like 50-50. And then Ryder just gets this Teen Wolf second wind where he just shoves down the nose tackle and just goes boom, just blasts Darrell Williams right here in the ribs. Actually said after the game that he felt bad. He apologized and said he'll buy him a case of beer because he hit him
about hurting his guy.
Yeah, he should buy you a case of beer.
Right.
Pushed him into the end zone.
Right.
Just to kind of expand on that, though, I thought there was a bizarre sequence of plays that led up to that. If the Lions don't call timeout twice, I don't think the Chiefs can run there. Now they're in a much more uncomfortable spot having to pass the ball. If there's a minute left on the clock, I think maybe you can try and get the ball back one last time. There's 30 seconds left in the game. I just didn't understand.
Look on your sheet, because I want to see this too. I thought there were like 40 seconds when I thought the Chiefs were now they're going to get the touchdown. I thought there were 40 seconds left, and the Lions still had 2 timeouts, and the Chiefs had 1.
Yeah.
And
They snapped it 1st and goal at the 3 with 30 seconds left.
okay, 1st and goal at the 3.
39 seconds
and the
left.
Chiefs ran it.
Yep.
Right? So if the Lions don't call a timeout, the Chiefs are kind of in scramble mode.
They had a timeout.
The Chiefs
right?
did.
They had
But
one
right.
that they could've used.
And Andy Reid was sprinting down the sideline trying to call
Yeah,
that timeout.
yeah, he was.
And then, so I actually thought that the Chiefs had called timeout. Turns out they had 1 left, and it was because Detroit had called it. But my point is, if they let the Chiefs call timeout there, yeah, there's the same amount of time on the clock, but you wonder if they're comfortable running the ball. And they got to run
Right.
it twice.
Right.
They got
Right.
to try it twice.
You know, we're sitting next to Adam Teicher, and Teicher's thinking the Lions need to let the Chiefs score.
I was going to
Yeah.
say that same thing.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what you thought might be possible if they were calling timeout, that was the back end of
to
that
get it back
strategy.
with 40 seconds to go.
It worked for Patricia's former boss in New England.
Yep, it
Let them
did.
score.
It
Yeah.
did. So, you know, interesting kind of sequence of events at the end. But the touchdown gave the Chiefs a lead. There was no, I'm trying to think, but Detroit got to midfield, right? They got the kickoff. They got to midfield. It had 2 Hail Marys.
They got to the 42.
Right, 2 Hail Mary attempts. Let's talk about Mahomes for a second here. I don't want to, you know, bad games for Mahomes are 315 and no picks, you know, but his passer rating was under 100 for the first time this year.
3rd worst of his career at 81.
Is that right? 3rd worst for his career. Offense puts up 34. Offense doesn't. Chiefs score 34. They have 438, you know, total yards in a tough environment against a good defensive-minded coach. I don't know what this says about the Chiefs, except do they feel invincible after a game like this? I mean, this isn't going to New England. It's not going to Chicago on a December night. But it was a tough environment, tougher than Jacksonville or Oakland.
I think a couple things about this, though. I do think that there's some value in, you know, if the Chiefs kept losing those close games, like, you know, the 4 of them last year, and the Seahawks was, I think, within a touchdown, but it wasn't. Seahawks was a better team that night. If they kept doing that, I don't know. Like, I know it's a confident group, but I just think it's important to sort of get past that, to get over that hurdle. And I also think, like, coaches a lot of times will tell you the best wins are, like, you know, when you got some stuff to yell at your guys about. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's universal in sports.
Totally. So, I mean, I think Andy's got that, you know, and that is a super confident bunch. But, you know, they do talk a lot about what they don't do well. You know, like even in victory, even in the wake of victory, you know, like I keep going back to Oakland and, you know, with Mitch Schwartz. And he just, like, can't talk enough about how they can't run the ball. And, like, that's on us, you know, and I'm not happy. I mean, it's just, they do talk a lot about what they don't do well.
I kind of led my story with that, actually, because Anthony Hitchens was having a conversation with, I think it was Lee in the post-game locker room, and was talking about how he thought Mahomes was the best quarterback ever. Mm-hmm. And then I turned to him and asked him a couple questions, and he repeated something very similar. I thought he added one of the best ever in the quote. But then he said, but we got to help him out. And he said, and honestly, we're not doing that right now. And then you talk to Travis Kelce, and he's talking about it. Everyone's got to watch the film, and they've got to get better off of this game. And then Tron Matthews says, you know, that's a game that most teams lose because of the way they played that game. So immediately it's like bang, 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 everyone. And I actually thought it was a pretty jubilant locker room, though.
It was.
I mean, those guys were pretty jacked about winning that game. But I think that relates to what you were talking about. This is a game this team lost 4 times last year.
Yep.
Somebody was going crazy in the locker room. Did you hear I think it was behind another wall, but somebody was beside themselves. I couldn't make out who it was. I think that, to me, the biggest concern was the Lions came into the game with a reputation of forcing turnovers. The Chiefs have a reputation of not turning the ball over. So in that regard, the Lions will won out there. They did what they were supposed to do, and the Chiefs couldn't prevent that from happening. That's something that I imagine if there's going to be an emphasis in practice this week, it'll be that.
And the crazy thing is, if you remember last week, Andy Reid even said that on Monday and Wednesday. We know that this team likes to force turnovers. This is going to be a point of emphasis. He said that Wednesday, and so you had 2-3 days of practice, and then you come in here and you still turn the ball over. Yeah, that's definitely going to be something. And I would talk to Sammy Watkins after the game, and he basically said, yes, this game gave us a lot of teachable moments. A lot of teachable moments that they need to apply this week because they're hosting the Colts, another good team.
Yep. So Cammie Benson Darnell wants to know how the hook and lateral is scored, and I was curious about that too. It's a play that you really see, and we had to look it up. And on the Cammie and on the official stat sheet, Kelce gets the reception, and he got 10 yards worth of receiving yards, and they gave 23 yards worth to McCoy. Obviously Mahomes just gets one. It's 1 for 1 for Mahomes
without the reception. For
right,
McCoy
right.
as
So
well,
he gets no reception for 23 yards. It would have been interesting if that had been his only
catch.
I would have loved that.
So that's unless they were wrong.
That's how they scored it, though.
That's how it was scored. Tell you what, Josh, Jacob Calloway makes a good point that quietly, a really terrific game by Travis Kelce today. Didn't drop anything.
Yeah.
Did he catch all of his targets? I don't remember.
I don't remember if he caught all his targets, but I know he had 6 catches for something like 87 yards, and it was quiet.
7 of 8.
7 of 8.
Okay.
It was a quiet 80
Even when they had him single covered, they were underneath on coverage. Mahomes, a lot of passes to Kelce, had to throw those passes just right to loft it over a defender and then get it to him. And I think what we take most for granted about Kelce is he's so good after the catch at still getting 5, 6 extra yards can be a big difference sometimes.
That story I wrote on Matt Patricia's reaction to Kelce, he even said that. His ability to make plays after the catch was something that they wanted to be aware of.
You guys remember when he had kind of fumbleitis when he first came into the league?
Yeah.
He was, just wasn't trustworthy with the ball after the catch, and now I can't remember the last time he's been sloppy with the ball.
Similar to a Hall of Fame tight end that played for the Chiefs that had fumbleitis, and drops and all that stuff, and then cleaned it up. He's incredible.
Now, would you go as far as saying second most important player on that offense?
Yes. And I'm going to say yes simply because Andy Reid's offenses traditionally, their first primary read for the quarterback is the tight end position. And Kelce was one of the first players they brought in when Andy Reid showed up. His history throughout the West Coast offense shows that he likes tight ends. So you can't lose Mahomes, obviously. He's number 1. You cannot lose Travis Kelce, number 2.
I don't know who would be looks
Tyreek
like
Hill, but it's hard to make that argument for Tyreek when they're 4-0 and scoring 30 whatever points.
I think his argument was diminished by the way that they've played without
him.
The
the argument, Tyreek is so unique. And, he's so unique. That's a dumb thing to say. But, he stretches the field. He is such a good fit for Mahomes, for that quarterback's unique talent.
Yeah.
And that's the argument, I think. Tyreek might be a better fit for Mahomes, and Kelce's a better fit for Andy Reid, like you're just saying. But, they're both really important. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. I thought he was just big. He just came up.
He was great.
Every
he was
time
terrific.
he was needed today, he came up big. So.
He's really you just talked about when he was fumbling the ball. He's also improved as a blocker too, I think, over the last few years. Downfield, he gets after it.
Yep.
They had him staying in a couple times, more times I think than usual today in pass pro.
Yep.
There's a reason why Matt Patricia called him the most complete tight end in the league. Now that Gronkowski's gone,
right.
Yeah.
Brian LeBurge asks about Mo Claver, and interesting. We didn't think much about him, but he will be in the Chiefs' facility on Monday for the first time this year after serving the 4-game suspension. And
it would actually be Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday?
Yeah, because you have to wait for Monday Night Football game to be over.
There you go.
Still
Do you really, even
week
if you
4.
don't play?
Yes.
See,
it's the week.
That's why we hired.
That's why this guy's here. Former NFL Network star Herbie Teope. I thought Charvarius Ward did not have a good game today. We'll see what the film says, but I just, at first blush, I didn't think Ward played well. But it's going to take Mo Claver a while if he hasn't been working with the team. Only 3 weeks of training camp or something? Not even that. 2 weeks of training camp, perhaps. But help is on the way at the cornerback position.
He'll play Sunday, I would assume.
You think? I don't know
not
that
much.
I
would assume
I
they
think
would work him in.
I don't think he's going to play a lot because it's like you said, Blair. You can't miss that much time. And of course, the Chiefs are also transitioning from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Mo Claiborne played with the Jets last year, and the Jets run a 3-4. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he is worked in. But I have to agree with Sam here. I don't think he's going to start. Yeah. You got your goal here is to work him in slowly and see where he is physically and where he is mentally in picking up the playbook.
So whose snaps do you think he gets then?
I just don't think it'll be that many in the beginning. But I mean, Ward is the kind of
on the
bottom guy.
on the outside
Yeah.
for sure. Then
I would think.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
think.
Breland, we've
He's staying.
agreed. Absolutely. Not
He
only an
has
alert
played so
play,
well.
he's played well, and Kendall Fuller, was it today? Was he going to sack today, or was it last week?
He was about to get a sack, but then since Chris Jones knocked the ball loose on that,
right.
he got
Right.
credit for the sack because it was a fumble.
3 sacks today. That's pretty
For a guy
decent.
that hadn't been sacked the last 2 weeks.
That's right.
either,
Detroit's done a good job protecting Stafford, and Chris Jones got him. Who were the other ones?
The one early, I mean, that was a 4-point sack, because
Yeah.
there was 3rd and goal. And was that
That's
Okafor?
Okafor, that's right, Okafor.
Okafor's
Right.
Early.
first
Right.
sack,
That was 3rd and goal. That was
Right.
a good sack.
He
But
got-
also, I mean, quarterbacks, it's part of the position, right? Like, you get noticed when you screw up or whatever. But, on that 3rd and goal where they saved 4 points, that was a coverage sack. There
Yeah.
just wasn't even
That's right.
open.
That's
So,
right.
They technically
they hold
gave
up.
him 4 sacks because they gave Noddy the sack on the ball where
That's
Matt
right.
Stafford's trying to switch the hands, and
Right.
then
The honey badger.
of course, the Teron Matthew big 3rd down play, probably
Huge.
the biggest play he's made in the 4 weeks here in Kansas.
That was
City.
great.
Absolutely.
That was a great
14-yard sack, was untouched, just found the right gap and blasted
but
through
timed it right. I mean, he
absolutely.
disguised his blitz really well, and we've been told that this guy's really good in different spots beyond just coverage and playing the safety position. That was an example of probably the best example we've seen of it so far.
That was a 3rd down, too, right?
Yeah, it was a 3rd down
forced him
play.
to punt. Yep.
And in a spot on midfield to where the Lions were trailing at that time, and you wondered, might they go for this if they just get it? I think it was 4th and 5, 4th and 6, and you wondered they get just a couple that could be in. I mean, he takes them right out of that decision.
David Van Zant wants to know how we would grade the offensive line play today, and Jamison Hills thinks the O-line's a problem.
I talked to Mitchell Schwartz after the game, and he mentioned he thought that he did not play well today. And Mitchell Schwartz is the rock of that offensive line.
For sure.
I think coming into today, and you might know this, I think he was the top-rated tackle, left or right tackle in all of football by Pro Football Focus. So when he doesn't have a good day, it's probably not a good sign for your line as a whole, because that's the guy you really think we don't have to worry about that side of the field.
Offensive line is one of the things that, I just want to watch it again before
Yeah.
saying anything. But I will say, Mitch is just merciless on himself.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't think that guy's ever said, I played really well. Like that guy.
And he grades really well.
Yeah, right.
Typically
Exactly.
grades very well.
Exactly. I don't know. I thought they were okay. And I don't know. Maybe that last play is just
He
in my
didn't
head,
get
but,
sacked today.
Literally, an offensive lineman pushed the running back across the goal line for the winning touchdown. I mean, that's pretty good.
That's right. Mahomes did not get sacked today.
Yeah,
right?
didn't get
He
sacked
was only
today.
hit 3 times,
Hit 3 times, didn't throw a pick.
but he was scrambling a lot.
He does.
And
He
that's-
did.
I mean, his mobility was significantly better today than it has been the last 2
That's a
weeks.
good point.
Because of
What
the
ankle injury,
Yeah.
right?
And it needed to be.
Right.
It really
had
needed to be today.
point.
So
There were 3 or 4 third down play. Well, I guess one was technically a 4th down play, but early in the first half, when the crowd's just going bonkers, and Travis Kelce, his first read, like you mentioned, he's double covered on the play, and he's got to scramble. I think it's 25 yards along the right sideline. 2 or 3 plays today. I just don't think he makes the last couple of weeks based on the way his ankle's been.
Yeah.
okay, hey, we're going to start wrapping this up. Let's finish it up. Vahe is.
Did somebody comment we were promised Vahe?
Vahe always breaks the promise. No,
Can't
he
trust
is.
that
He's
guy.
working on his opus on the Brashad Breeland play. I'm looking forward to reading that. So let's wrap it up with some final thoughts. And Herbie, what your first game covering the Chiefs? Again, like I said, since 2015, it was a it was a tight one, tighter than the previous 3 that they played, but they gave you something to write about, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. And it's like Sam mentioned earlier, and both Sams, and even you yourself. This team has a lot of room to grow. I really believe that. Of course, they're an elite team, but today showed that there's still some things they need to address, and then Mo Claiborne will help the pass defense. I think they really need to focus on stopping the run. They just have to, because when it starts getting cold, teams are going to start running that football. And if you're having issues in September, just imagine what it's going to be like in December if it's not fixed. But yeah, it was a fun game. It's the Chiefs. And I didn't say, same old Chiefs. I said, it's the Chiefs.
All right, Melly, what you got?
We talked about it, but I was just really, I think the resiliency is an important little, sort of a stone that got moved ahead a little bit. And not that they were a soft team or whatever, but they've lost this game. They lost it 4 times. It's a close game right at the end. And to go down there and punch it in with the touchdown, I just thought was an important moment.
Yeah. Sam Mack?
Yeah, I mean, kind of to build off that, so I won't add too much, but this is a game that they've consistently lost, and like Mellinger pointed out earlier, I just think they had to win one of these games at some point. You look at the tape, and you probably are going to say this team didn't play very well today. You look at the aftermath of what comes next, and I think it's going to help them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Not every game is going to be a 3-score lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, it always had been until
Herbie Teope showed up.
Herbie.
Yeah, blame me.
I'm gonna cede my final thought to Vahe Gregorian, who has entered the room after fresh off of his column about the Brashard Breeland play. So final thought from Vahe Gregorian. You just hold the
We
mic.
probably should all leave.
You only
Just
get one
give him
thought.
just give him a monologue.
Get out of here. In my case, first thought, best thought. What's the question?
Whatever you want it to
My
be.
final thought.
Yeah, final thought. But again, we were teasing your story about the play.
Well, thank you for teasing that. Thanks for bearing with us. Thanks for letting me join up with you, fellows.
So we basically just scratched the surface of the play, did the highlights, but you talked to all the particulars.
Yeah, most of them. I got a little help from Sam McDowell talking to Xavier Williams, and Xavier actually might have had the best insight about just the absolute sort of chaos of the play, like having no idea who got the ball initially, stopping and starting again on the play. And when you do look at the replay, what's kind of interesting is you see, we realize that the Lions kind of gave up on the play, but at least 3 Chiefs were kind of standing around the ball too. Not, quitting, but just not understanding what was in play. But afterwards, about 3 or 4 guys made a point of saying, never heard the whistle, and that was pretty alert of the officials, actually. That's you've seen whistles blown in places that look more stopped than that. And then Breeland just swooped in and just did what you do when you think it's always sort of a little bit of a joke, like they're just going to stride down the field and, I guess you run all the way, but, the play's not going to happen. Yeah. Maybe some big high stepping at the end. He didn't do that. So, and really it did turn the game. I mean, it's a 14-point swing. We don't know they would have scored a touchdown there, but it represents a potential 14-point swing. Looked like that. They just made a big stop in that situation. To ask for a second turnover created right then is pretty huge, right? And we saw a lot of holes in the defense today and a lot of vulnerabilities, but isn't that the statement of the game? And obviously the Mahomes drive at the end is you can't win without it, but it might be a moot point without that sequence at the start of the third quarter.
You summed it up well. You did. No, so
We can't hear you.
I'm going to talk louder now. So okay, or I'll take this. Thanks. So we're going to get out of here. So thanks to Herbie, Sam, Vahe, and Jill, who's running the show. Thanks a lot, Jill. We're going to. We didn't have coffee tonight. Did you notice that? There was
no coffee.
We didn't have
I
coffee
definitely
here
noticed
tonight.
that.
Or bottled water.
Right, but mostly coffee. We needed the coffee. So.
Can we have Herbie sing us out while you conclude?
Yeah, we might. Yes, we will.
Need a song?
We do. So you think of a song while I remind people that we will have. We'll be with you all week on the sports podcast, the daily sports podcast, SportsBeat KC. This will be on a podcast starting tonight, and then the rest of the week we'll be talking Chiefs, Royals, maybe some Ned Yost, colleges. So tune in to SportsBeat KC for your daily sports podcast. Herbie, what do you got?
Blair, I think our viewers have lost that love and feeling.
Herbie.
You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips. All right, we're fading out. Thank you.
Well done, Herbie. Thanks a lot. Good night.
That's my kind of Facebook Live. Come in, give you guys 2 minutes of juice.